On the morning of June 18, 2020, a man walked into the headquarters of one of Germany's most celebrated tech companies. It was his first day on the job. His name was James Fries. He was hired to make the company more transparent. But within hours, he would discover something that would bring the entire company to its knees. 1,900 million euros, the money the company was built on, did not exist. Not stolen. Not hidden offshore. It was never there. And the company? It was worth more than Deutsche Bank. This is the story of the biggest corporate fraud in German history, and how the man behind it vanished from the face of the earth. To understand how you fake 19 billion euros, you need to go back to where it started. Munich, 1999. The dot-com boom was making millionaires out of teenagers with a website and a dream. In the middle of it, a tiny company called Wirecard was processing online payments, mostly for gambling sites and adult content. The kind of business no respectable bank wanted to touch. It was small, messy, and barely surviving. Then the dot-com bubble burst. Hundreds of startups collapsed overnight. Wirecard should have died with them. But it didn't, because in 2002, a man named Markus Braun took over as CEO. And Markus Braun didn't see a failing company. He saw an opportunity to tell a very different story. Braun was a former KPMG consultant. Polished. Calculated. He started wearing black turtlenecks to press events, modeling himself on Steve Jobs. He talked about Wirecard not as a company that moved money for gambling websites, but as the future of financial technology. A European fintech champion that would rival Visa and MasterCard. And the timing was perfect. Germany was desperate for a tech success story. Silicon Valley had Google, Apple, Facebook. Germany had nothing. Until Wirecard. Investors poured in. The stock price started climbing. And year after year, Braun delivered exactly the numbers Wall Street wanted to see. Double-digit growth. Expanding profit margins. New partnerships across Asia. It looked too good to be true. Because it was. The genius of the fraud was geography. Wirecard claimed that a huge chunk of its revenue came from something called third-party acquiring. Essentially, partner companies in Asia that process payments on Wirecard's behalf. The profits from these partners were enormous. Hundreds of millions of euros per year. And the money? It supposedly sat in escrow accounts at 2 banks in the Philippines. It was the perfect hiding place. Too far away for German regulators to check. Too complex for most analysts to question. The entire system ran through a single man, the company's chief operating officer. And that man is where this story gets truly strange. Jan Marsalek. While Braun was the public face, the magazine covers, the investor calls, the black turtleneck, Marsalek was the shadow. He ran all international operations. He traveled constantly. He kept a private office in Vienna, and multiple intelligence sources have since confirmed it was located next door to the Russian embassy. Marsalek bragged about connections to intelligence services. He showed colleagues classified documents about the Salisbury poisoning before they were made public. He once told a business partner he could arrange a private military operation in Libya. This was not a normal chief operating officer. But inside Wirecard, nobody asked questions. The money kept flowing. The stock kept rising. And Marsalek kept the entire international operation, the part where all the imaginary billions lived, under his personal control. The first crack came from London. Dan McCrum, a journalist at the Financial Times, started investigating Wirecard's Asian operations. The numbers didn't add up. Revenue figures from the partner companies were suspiciously round. Documentation was thin. McCrum published his findings. And Wirecard's response was not what an innocent company does. They hired a former intelligence operative to surveil Financial Times journalists. They filed criminal complaints against short sellers. They ran an aggressive public campaign calling the reporting racist and anti-German. And then something extraordinary happened. Germany's own financial regulator, BaFin, sided with Wirecard. Instead of investigating the company, BaFin investigated the accusers. In 2019, BaFin took the unprecedented step of banning short selling of Wirecard stock. The watchdog became the guard dog. This sent a clear message to the market. Wirecard is legitimate. Germany's government stands behind it. The stock surged. Investors doubled down. And the fraud grew another year larger. By late 2019, the pressure was impossible to ignore. Wirecard hired KPMG to conduct a special independent audit. Prove once and for all that the money was real. KPMG needed one thing: confirmation from the two Philippine banks that held the 1.9 billion euros. Simple. Get a bank statement. Verify the balance. It should have taken days. Took months. The confirmations kept getting delayed. The documents that did arrive had inconsistencies. And when KPMG finally published their report in April 2020, they did not clear Wirecard. They said they could not verify the existence of the money. Two words that destroyed a 20-year illusion. Not verifiable. The Philippine banks confirmed what the journalists had been saying for 5 years. The money had never entered their system. The accounts did not exist. The documents Wirecard had provided to its own auditors, forged. 1.9 billion euros. A quarter of the company's entire balance sheet. Fiction. It had always been fiction. June 18, 2020. James Frice starts his first day. Within hours he sees the truth. He works through the night. Wirecard's own auditor, EY, refuses to sign off on the annual report. June 19. Braun resigns. The stock collapses. Over the next 7 days, Wirecard loses 98% of its value. A company that was once worth 24 billion euros, a member of Germany's elite DAX 30 index, files for insolvency. Banks lose 3.1 billion in loans they will never recover. Pension funds, retail investors, life savings, gone. Braun is arrested on June 23. He tells investigators he is a victim, not a mastermind. He says the real architect of the fraud was Marsalek. That Marsalek ran the international operations alone. That Braun trusted his COO and was deceived like everyone else. It is a defense he will repeat for years. But Marsalek is already gone. On June 19, the same day Braun resigned, Marsalek boarded a private jet from Austria. His phone was last tracked near Vienna. Then the signal disappeared. Interpol issued a red notice. German prosecutors filed charges. But Jan Marsalek had vanished completely, until intelligence agencies started piecing together where he went. Multiple investigations, German, Austrian, and British, now believe Marsalek fled to Moscow. That he had been an asset connected to Russian intelligence for years. That the office next to the Russian embassy was not a coincidence. The man who ran the fake half of a 20 billion euro company may have been a spy the entire time. The money was fiction. But the intelligence operation around it was very real. The trial of Markus Braun began in December 2022. It is now one of the longest criminal trials in German history. Over 260 court sessions. Hundreds of witnesses. Millions of pages of evidence. And as of today, there is still no verdict. Braun maintains his innocence. He says he was the CEO who trusted the wrong person. The prosecution says he knew everything. The one man who could settle this, Marsalek, is sitting in Moscow, beyond the reach of any court. So here is what remains. A company built on money that never existed. A CEO who says he didn't know. A COO who might be a spy. A regulator that protected the fraud instead of stopping it. Auditors who missed it for a decade. And 1.9 billion euros that were never real. The lie was sold for $9 billion. And the man who may have built the whole thing is still free. The only question left is the one nobody can answer. Did Markus Braun build the trick? Or was he just the face, while the man who actually ran it got away?